Hey, welcome back to Mornings with Your Mayor. I'm your host, Mayor Robert C. Dye. We're back to take another in-depth look into our community, issues that are affecting all of us, and just having some conversation about the ideas that are continuing to improve our community, our city, and how we're trying to drive Farmers Branch forward. Today's episode is episode 9. I'm excited about our next guest. He's a Metroplex Chamber rising, or Metro Crest Chamber, rising star, and director of our Parks and Rec department, Michael Mashburn. Mike, what's been good, man? How you doing?
Thank you. Good. Doing well. Enjoying the nice weather outside. Yeah, perfect day. Great day to be in a park, right?
Yeah, it is a beautiful day. I actually took a meeting with a business associate of mine the other day in one of our parks. Went and got a coffee from Starbucks down the street, and then went over to the Grove just because they have those, the nice little chairs and tables underneath all those trees. And it was nice. It was nice to get outside and hold a meeting in a much different place than I normally do. So grateful that opportunity was available.
Perfect.
I know your career kind of started out in Elk Grove, but are you from LA? Or I guess, are you from California in the Sacramento area? Did you grow up there, or is that just a way of by job?
Yeah, we kind of have a connection. I was born in San Diego, so I know you're familiar with that. Yeah, and moved to Northern California around 10. Spent most of my adult life there, and then moved to Texas about 6 years ago. So.
Okay, and then I guess from Elk Grove, you came to Texas. Now that was through Keller?
Yeah, the first job I had in Texas was with the city of Keller. Beautiful community. I really sort of fell in love with the Texas area when I sort of viewed that space there. As my wife likes to say, who's from Texas, it's like a different world in that side of the Metroplex. So this is where she's from, is closer to the Farmers Branch area. And so we moved a little bit closer, and when the job opened in Farmers Branch, fantastic city to work for. So here I am.
Yeah, and I guess what interested you most about Farmers Branch when you were looking to move from Keller over here and take, I guess, the next step in your career?
Yeah, I really enjoyed sort of that small town feel in sort of the heart of the Metroplex. I like the cities somewhere in the 50,000 and below range, somewhere between 30,000, 50,000. So that was appealing to me. There was a lot of things going on, a lot of opportunity coming up for sort of special projects. And really, before I took the job, I watched several council meetings and met with city leadership. And that's what really sold me on coming here, was just sort of the thought-provoking ideas that were coming out, the business approach that we take to some things, the opportunity to do some real special projects with some open-minded thinking and out-of-the-box thinking. So that's what sold it for me. I love doing these projects that we've either done or have coming up, and it's been a special place so far.
Yeah, it has. And, you're heading up what I consider to, we got a special team. I mean, our entire staff is phenomenal just across the board. But I know that because of COVID, a lot of our parks department we had to shut a lot of our doors. We had manage some of our facilities in a much different way. But, your staff, in my opinion, rose to the challenge in terms of the way that they wanted to connect, not only with the community and, share, their thoughts and feelings about how they're missing their normal, residents that would come in and be a part of our facilities, conversations that they were having, and just some of those connections, but also the way that you guys have guided things that we're doing at the branch connection, and taking care of our seniors. Just the ability to pivot, the ability to come up with ideas to still provide engagement and services for our people during that time, I think is just phenomenal. And so I want to commend you, and especially your staff, on all that they've been doing, because I know it's been a difficult time, but I do appreciate y'all's willingness also to keep some of our parks open in a little bit different capacity than some of the other cities around us, especially given how close we are to Dallas. I know we took a little bit different approach in terms of not taking our rims off the basketball courts, leaving some of our tennis courts open, making sure that the golf course was open, even though it's not ours. It was still a collective decision on how we felt, but just allowing people to get outside and take in the outdoors, to have a place to go to seek some different experience from their home. I mean, what was your thoughts on that, and how we kind of handled that, and the opportunities that you were able to provide to our residents and to our community during such a difficult time?
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing sort of took us off guard. It really uncharted waters. Unless you were alive 100 years ago, you probably didn't see anything like this. So, so it was interesting. We did have to pivot quickly. And one of the things was, as we keep in contact with other cities, is what do we do with our parks? Do we shut them down? Do we close off playgrounds? Do we take basketball rims off? Do we caution tape off the whole area? And our team, as well as city leadership, felt pretty strongly that at this point now more than ever, people needed the outdoors. I don't know about you, but our family has taken more walks than we ever have before. If we see a basketball hoop that's not being used, we want to use it. But if there's a ton of people there, we're smart enough to say, let's socially distance and come back later. So we felt our residents were smart enough to avoid dangers. Super popular when you look at some of the surrounding communities, kind of really trying to caution off everything. And we took some steps to make sure, high risk, high touch things like maybe water fountains or restrooms were closed just to not spread. But we believe strongly we're a city in a park. We need to keep open. We need to give residents these opportunities. And I think it went well. You saw a lot of people use what we had out there in a safe fashion. As far as I know, we didn't see any major spike from a basketball court being open. So I think that was the right decision there. And we even kept the skate park open on limited hours too. And so, I think we did a good job. I think the community appreciated it. I think that's what we need to do moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think they definitely appreciate it. And I think you touched on a good point. Like, at some point you got to provide, you got to give your residents an opportunity to make smart decisions for themselves. And we trusted our community to know, hey, if you're outside and you see someone that's a little too close to you, like, adhere to social distancing. And I think that was, it was received well by the community, and the way that they were able to respond to that and actually take those actions themselves, I think was important, because I've never seen more people riding bikes in the community, or, running around Rawhide Park at certain times. But, the fact that the parks was open, I think was a very important piece, especially, considering mental health, being able to get outside. Like you said, you guys spent more time outside than you had in the past. I've never had more dinners in my life in a park during this time, just because I was tired of eating at home. So, it was great to have beautiful spaces to go to eat. As I said, I talked about the Grove, Mallon Park, Rawhide. I even went to Farmers Branch Park and sat under the, kind of the little pavilion that we have there. And so just having those spaces and ability to get outside and enjoy, the spring in a different way. I think most of us, at least for the last 12 years, have spent more time just working and grinding and not really paying attention. But the fact that I was open and we were able to was fantastic. So, appreciate that. And I know that COVID has, it's flipped kind of the world upside down, especially as we just talked about with our Parks and Rec department, in terms of what facilities can and can't be open. But I know as the governor's opening up the state more, and as we're looking to do more things for our community, one of the things that we've talked about is, opening the pool. And some communities, I think, aren't taking that approach, but we feel that that's an opportunity that we should explore. And was just wondering kind of what the status of that plan is, and what you're thinking in terms of our pool this summer.
Yeah, we're excited to announce we'll be opening the Frog Pond, which is the outdoor pool, June 15th. So a couple more weeks, that'll be open to the public. It is going to be reduced capacity, just to make sure that we're adhering to social distancing measures. And our staff are taking extra precautions to clean throughout the day, make sure we're policing certain spaces that folks are congregating. We won't have the typical chairs out there that people move together, just because we do want to have social distancing, but all elements will be open. The indoor pool will open once it's clear that we can have 50% occupancy in that space. So the thought behind it's an indoor space. We have a lot of folks, seniors in particular, that could be coming into that area. So we want to make sure that that's as safe as possible. And we feel like at 50% capacity, that avoids maybe potential onslaught that could happen, or a re-flare up during this time that things are opening. So this is one of the times we don't want to be first to market, perhaps, with a place that could be high risk. So typically we're ahead of the curve, but right now I think it's safer just to stand back and wait a little bit. But we do want to provide that amenity to the community, and I know council was certainly supportive of that a couple of weeks ago at the meetings, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, we know, a lot of the seniors understand what we're trying to do, and that we truly have their best intentions in mind and at heart when we're thinking about what facilities should we open and how should we reopen our community to them in different aspects, just because there's such a high risk from this disease. But in terms of the 25% as we start, like what does that kind of look like? How are we going to monitor that, enforce it, and ensure that 25% can get in? Like, are we anticipating like a line of people waiting to get in at some point, or is it more? What's the communication strategy going to look like to ensure people can get in, and it's how that might look?
Yeah, great question. So each space has a maximum occupancy load that it can handle. So we'll do a percentage based on that, and we do have our front desk staff communicating with the folks inside the pool area on where we're at with capacity. If a line needs to form, then that's certainly what will happen. We're not really sure what to expect the first few days. Is it going to be a big onslaught? Are people going to be sort of a little bit tepid coming into this? So we'll reassess after that. We have talked about perhaps posting updates online or having a call-in number where people can check occupancy to make it a little bit easier. Nothing worse if you have kids and you just packed up everybody, including perhaps a small toddler, and you're ready to go to the pool, and then you got to wait an hour-long line or you can't get in. So we're gonna make sure we do everything we can to help prevent that and allow as many people in this safely as possible.
Yeah, and just a thought. I know it's random and probably hasn't. It's probably been explored, but just curious. At some of our facilities, we've had senior hours where we're opening up the facilities a little bit early to allow seniors to come in and enjoy the space free of anyone else. Have we thought about looking into that, but then also maybe doing the same thing with moms with young kids that, don't want to get trampled in the pool, but still want to, just because we won't have the space to spread out like we used to, that there might be some opportunities for, families with young ones, but then also our seniors to partake on separate days so that they can still kind of get to the pool and enjoy that amenity.
Yeah, great question. Yes, so the total hours will be open each day remains the same as it does last year. Just the configuration of that is going to change. So like you said, are there areas for certain demographics to come in and have that to themselves? Yes. So we're going to segment that out. That's going to be posted online. We just finalized that yesterday. So look for that to come. But we want to make sure we're servicing as many people as possible. We will close for a brief period in the middle of the day just to clean everything and make sure it's sanitary for the next group coming through. But again, we'll be open the same total hours that we were last year, just in a slightly different capacity.
Awesome. It's good to hear. I know that community members are going to enjoy some of those opportunities. And next door to the pool is the famous rec center. I remember when I was growing up, that was called Showman. Now it's just the Farmers Branch rec, but it's about 20 years old. And I know at the last council meeting, we had some conversations about potentially doing some renovations there. And so just wanted to, understand your thought process behind, what are the renovations that we're looking to make, and what are we trying to accomplish through that? And then also just for people to be aware, should we, take official action to move down that path? Like what does the timing look like for that potential renovation?
Yeah. This is one of the projects, when I said coming here, a lot of great opportunities, a lot of exciting things to do. This is one of the ones that I had in mind. So like you said, we're coming up on close to 20 years of operating that facility, and it hasn't been touched or majorly upgraded since moving in. Well, as our community changes, I want to say we were around 26,000 residents when that was first built. As you know, Mayor, we had a huge increase this last year. Mm-hmm. In fact, last 2 years I've been here, I think we went from just over 35,000 maybe to close to 50 now. So big changes. And, we pride ourselves on trying to be ahead of the curve and ahead of the trends. I think the growth that we just experienced was bigger than any of us probably imagined, even though we knew it was coming. And so what does our community need? Does it function differently than it did 20 years ago? certainly, obviously it's going to. So what we did was about a year ago, we took a critical look at that space and said, as our population grows and as trends change, what is the next generation of folks moving into our city need? And what do they desire? And so we used a lot of research as far as metrics are concerned, with nationwide averages of who attends a fitness facility, what they use most, what they desire most, measured those with our current demographics and potential demographics down the road, and came up with a plan where we just reimagined the space. And so this is a phased approach. Our city, as many know, some may not, is a pay-as-you-go city largely. That just means we pay for projects in cash and we don't take on debt. Now, there are instances where we do, but certainly during this time, we are in much better shape than most cities right now because we've adopted that model. So we started putting money away roughly a year ago to fund this project and do it in phases. So phase one will be the lower level of the rec center, and it will get a complete refresh and a complete redesign. And so we have 2 basketball courts. The auxiliary gym with the rubberized flooring will turn into a completely different fitness space. So you're looking at almost 10,000 square feet of added fitness space. To put that in context, we have about 3,000 upstairs right now. So we are greatly enhancing what we offer and what people use the most. The beauty of that is high ceilings, spread out equipment. It's going to allow for social distancing if COVID sticks with us longer, or if something else comes down the road, we're well equipped to handle that moving forward. So there's pictures online that we posted on what this looks like. And it is beautiful. I will contend there's not a whole lot of places around us that will have this level of detail on that first floor for an affordable price. We haven't changed prices since we opened. We don't anticipate changing that over the next year. So this is something to give back to the residents, and it's not something that's going to take a huge tax hit either. We've been creative on how we've managed our resources. We have not increased our budget in a few years, and we've been able to put money away in our current budget to fund this project. So I think it'll be a really special space once it's done. Look at the pictures online. We anticipate a huge crowd once COVID is behind us, once everything's complete. The timeline on this is between 6 and 8 months from start to finish. We're looking to get started immediately. We do have an item on the next council agenda to approve the architect and move forward with that. But this is going to redesign the gym. It's going to open up that childcare space, which is going to be infinitely better and exciting for the young kids that we have coming in there. Our hallways, rental rooms, everything will just be a completely new place. And the beauty of it is the second floor can stay open during this time. So once we hit the governor's orders at 50% capacity, we'll open up upstairs. Just don't mind the construction for 6 or 8 months when that happens. But people should still be able to utilize the facility mostly how they do, or how they were using it before COVID. And so, I think it's going to be a really, really neat idea.
Yeah, it sounds, from the renderings I've seen, I'm excited, especially in the direction that it's going. But, and then you brought up, we're almost at 50,000 people, which, the 2019 numbers said a little over 48,000. And so when you said you are attracted to communities between 30 and 50, I was a little nervous, because if we wait one more year, we might blow right past that. So didn't want to scare you off. Hopefully there's a margin of error there.
I'll make an exception for Farmers Branch. It's been a good place.
I appreciate that. But in terms of what we're trying to do, I know it's going to be heartburn for some people at first, just because we are potentially going to eliminate one basketball court, one utility room that allows us to do volleyball, pickleball, other things. How do we see us transforming and using just one gym, with the other one being purely fitness? And this might dovetail into another question that I had for you, which is dynamics of sports are changing in terms of there's a little bit less participation in football, same with baseball, and we have magnificent fields for some of these things that we consider assets to our community. How do you look at what the changes that we're making in the rec center, and then what changes, if any, we might need to look at some of our other facilities in terms of park? I know we're looking at taking an inventory of some of our park and what we need to do there, but what are your thoughts on some of that, and how the future of our rec center and the future of some of our fields might look, just considering where things are going and where the trends have been?
Yeah. So the great thing about Farmers Branch, and I say this all the time, is we've had the most incredible group of staff that I've ever worked with. Part of that comes from the longevity of the people that have been there. We have a long tenured staff. I'm kind of one of the new kids on the block. Been here 2 years, but we have people upwards of 30 plus on our team. And the great thing is many of them live in the community or they've just been here so long, they're part of the community and the fabric. And so they have a pulse on the members, what people need, what they desire, a huge heart for service. And so they've been really instrumental in providing that feedback on what spaces can be reimagined, what beloved programs can be moved to a different space. The great thing about that recreation center is about 50,000 square feet. It's a lot of space. And a lot of the areas just aren't utilized fully right now. And so reconfiguring some places will allow us to move some of those beloved programs into underutilized spaces right now. The teen room, as it's been called in the past, is a pretty decent sized space. That'll be a multi-purpose area where we can house larger group exercise classes and also use for rental rooms or other activities. I know pickleball was a concern, removing the auxiliary gym. We'll still find a place for that, but as you asked about parks and reimagining things, one thing we're talking about internally is, okay, pickleball's been very big for our community. We do have an outdoor court, but does that need better covering over that? Do we need another pickleball court outside? Do we need to find some way to cool it down a little bit more? Can we use some of our other facilities that have indoor places that we're not fully utilizing? Can we move some of that stuff over there too? So I think we've got a pretty good plan, and everything we currently have should mostly function as it did before, just more effectively. And so you also asked about kind of what the future of parks looks like, right? So we can go into kind of some of the ideas. I don't know if you want to get into the signature park idea right now, or.
Well, no, I was going to save the grand finale conversation for the last in terms of some of those other things, but it was more of, I mean, as a Cali kid, like you kind of, with my whole family living in San Diego right now, like I see it's different how different communities, the sports that they're, I guess, attracted to and what they're doing and what you're seeing to where my mom lives. It's in a lot of San Diego, it's somewhat like Farmers Branch. I mean, it's bigger on a scale of, population wise, but in terms of demographics, like, it's very, very similar. I mean, you do have somewhat of an older population relative to surrounding communities to where you do see that shift away from tennis and into pickleball. And, I've seen instances where, kind of in Canyon Creek or in Oceanside or, even just closer down towards Mission Valley and some of these other places over there where they've converted tennis courts to 4 to 8 pickleball courts that are just full time. And what's weird is like you see a whole community there that has come together to where they upkeep the whole thing themselves. Like they're paying into a fee to, hey, we're going to put this into a pot and this is going to, buy utilities, buy shade, buy some other things to really make this kind of their own thing. And I know we've talked about some of that in the past. I don't know where it's going or what we're doing, but I know that our pickleball courts have always been, it's kind of outlined. You got to bring your own gear. And has that sport grown enough to where, it needs its own facility, and is tennis still on the level that it is to where we still need all the tennis courts? I know right now driving around, tennis courts are taken all the time. I know you got to get there, and I try to play at 3:00 in the afternoon in the summer because no one's out there, just because they don't want to be in the heat. But it's kind of along those lines of like, as new sports pop up, as there's some changing dynamics and the way sports are being played or how different communities are engaging with them. What did that look like? And that's why I was just trying to pick your brain on what that might be, because I know for my whole life, Cox Field has always been soccer and the softball and baseball field. Same with Pepper Park across the street. But then but growing up, the rec center was Showman, the pool was Showman, but then we had Showman baseball field. We had some other stuff that these things no longer exist. And, as we've kind of shifted people, I mean, you could say the same with Barney Wood, but glad to see that we're making some progress across the street to bring back an open field where kids could still probably play some football or do some other things. But that's kind of where I was just thinking of when we think about those trends, what does that look like? And we've always, we've been big on soccer tournaments and baseball tournaments and other things to bring in revenue. Is that still a model going forward, in terms of, bringing people into the city, getting hotel motel funds and nights and the revenue generation that comes from some of that stuff? I mean, how do you see some of that playing out as we've kind of shifted more towards allowing more people to use our fields than we have in the past?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like you said, football interest, at least in Farmers Branch, had been waning for quite some time. We had very few residents participating in a football league, so we converted that to the dog park because that was one that people very much liked, and we did a what I like to call proof of concept. Did a pop-up dog park one day on a very, very hot day, even charged a fee, and we were busting at the seams with 500 people, and so that kind of was the last nail in the board, I guess, to say, hey, we need to go ahead and build this. And it's been immensely popular since. One of the things our team and I do all the time is we kind of look at spaces that we have, what assets do we have, and say, is this the highest and best use? Is this what we're doing? And if we need to replace something, we ask why. Probably hate me asking over and over again, why are we doing this? Is it successful? What are the metrics behind it? Who's using it? Is there a better use? And so we're taking a critical look at our entire inventory. And so we're in the process and just wrapping up a parks master plan. And so for those of you who don't know what that is, it's essentially taking a critical look at all of the assets that you have in the community, whether it's rec center, aquatic center, field space, baseball fields, whatever it is, puts that all together, compares it to cities of like size and makeup, and says, hey, this is where you could be better. Here's what you really do well above the national average. And here's some ideas for the future. And so that's been a long process over the last 4 or 5 months or so that we've been working on that. Should have a final plan back at some point next month. That had a lot of community input. We did a meeting much like this that was online. Typically those are in person. We tried this online because of COVID through Facebook Live and call in and everything. We had an incredible amount of response. I mean, over 1,000 people viewed it, over 800 comments, likes, shares, participation, call engagement, essentially on there, which our consultant said was way better than any meetings he's ever done before. So we had a lot of input from the community on it. And so this will frame what we do moving forward. I do know one of the things that we need to do is give back some open field space to our community. You mentioned the tournaments, and that was sort of a hallmark for Farmers Branch for many, many years, is we were first to market in a sense by attracting tournaments because of our hotel base. Since then, people have built these gigantic complexes that we simply can't compete with. We don't have the parking. We don't have the number of fields we're looking for. It still satisfies a need to an extent because we do have several long-standing tournaments that return year after year. But we started renting out about a year and a half ago, started renting out some of those fields. It was an incredible source of revenue. Went from around $50,000 a year, 50, 60,000 to closer to 200,000 just in rental revenue. So the desire is there for people to have space, but we need to find a space for community members to just go play with their kids, right? So we're looking at several areas like that. I know you, Mayor, as well as Councilwoman Ratana, have a very big heart for the community and giving some of these spaces back. And so we've talked about some ideas that'll be rolled out here shortly that'll give some of that back. We're looking at some of the athletic fields, and the trend is just open space. We need something multi-use, not just for baseball, not just for soccer. It's nice to have, but it allows you to be more flexible if you kind of make it more of an open space. So one of the things we're looking at Farmers Branch Park is just reconfiguring some of the backstops to allow for more of an open space rather than centered right in the middle of the fields. There's the old hockey rink that we have in town too. Does that need to be repurposed into something else or just redone simply? There's some other parks in town that maybe get very light usage, but have a beautiful playing surface that with a fence in place could be used for something else. So we're looking at all of that. That'll be kind of in the parks master plan and frame the future moving forward. But we are a city in a park. It has to be front of mind, right? And we have to plan for the future because like we just saw, the population sneaks up on you real quick. The good thing is we've been thinking about this for a while. Certainly since I came on, we've really, really tried to put a lot of thought into what we do. And so you'll see some of these things rolling out moving forward. I think the community really like it.
Yeah. And, I'm glad to hear that. I'm, I have somewhat of an idea of what you guys are thinking in terms of rolling out some more open space, but just, I know Councilmember Ratana and, I think the rest of the council too would just be grateful to see some of that come to fruition. I know our community would love to have some of that space back, just to have more places to play and engage in sports and other things, and give back some of those facilities, which is fantastic. But when you talk about parks, I've always felt that that's one of the main things that attract people to a community. I mean, a lot of people, when they're looking for a place to live, we're going to start with the schools if we have a family. Then we're going to start with the parks. Then we're going to look at infrastructure and how affordable is it to live here for the value that's being created, which I think we have one of the greatest values in North Texas, just because of what we have to offer. But why is it important for Farmers Branch to invest in our parks? And I'm asking because do you have people? We have people in the community that probably believe they don't believe in the parks. They think that space could be utilized for something better, or we could build something on it, and that's going to generate tax revenue, and it's going to make it cheaper for us to live here. But there is a need, and so I'm just trying to from your standpoint, with your background, your education, why is it important that we invest in the parks in the way that we are?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because a lot of people look at open space, they go, I don't need that or whatever. But there's tons of studies that have been done that show mental health is greatly improved with ample park space and nice park space. Crime rate goes down when there's park space and they're heavily used, but also property value goes way up if it's a good to great park. There was a study done several years ago that showed the impact on the community of if you did something really special with your park, it attracts people from other areas. It's used as a marketing piece for your city. It's heavily used by the residents, and it greatly impacts the property values for those around it. So all of these are great reasons to invest in the parks. But as our community changes, it grows, and you're attracting younger families, most of them want park space. I mean, I can attest to that myself. As a father of three, all the way from very young to 12 years old, we use parks a ton, and that's one of the more enriching times that we have. Certainly you can pay $150, $200 to go top golf every weekend, but that adds up, right? And you want safe spaces that are enjoyable, that can engage all levels, from a small toddler up to really an adult, in a sense. We'll get to this question in a little bit, I'm sure, but how do we reimagine that so everybody is satisfied with that? Because the playground spaces that we have, currently, a 10-year-old is not going to want to do them. But how do you make something that the whole family wants to come and enjoy? It also builds a sense of community cohesion. So you can just prop something up and hope people come, and maybe a few people trickle in, and that's fine. Or you can think of, how can we do this a little bit different, a little bit special, to create a community gathering space? And so I point to the dog park on that. We could have just done a fence, chain link fence, and open it up and called it a dog park, and the dogs wouldn't know any better, right? They'd be fine with it. But we did some particular enhancements to make it aesthetically pleasing and inviting, to make that a community gathering space. And so it allowed us to do some things with special events. And so if you've been out there for special events, when we've done things, we have the concession stand open. It's just a really neat feel. You start meeting your neighbors and people you may have never seen before, because that's something that I think we've kind of lost in our society over the years. So enhancing the parks, giving them something special, encouraging people to come out to those, I think is going to make Farmers Branch a little bit unique in that fashion, and different from those around us. We are a city and park. We're right in the middle of Metroplex. I think what we have currently is so much different than those around us, and how can we enhance that moving forward is sort of what we look at.
Yeah. And, you talk about the dog park, and a lot of time and energy and care was put into that. And thanks to, I think, the community, but most importantly, you all and our Parks and Rec board for the work that they did with all the studies, site visits, everything to make it what it is. And it shows, because award winning. And I hear from community, like other council members in other communities, like, we come to your dog park. And that's fantastic to hear, because when we were talking about open up other stuff, other people were like, hey, but when are you opening the dog park? It's like, it's coming. We have to check a few things first, but glad that it's finally open now and up and running. And, I'm glad to hear you say Farmers Branch Park. That for me is, I think, it has been, in my opinion, since day one, the park that's needed the most attention, just in terms of the amount of space that we have, the amenity that it is to those communities that are surrounding it. And if we enhanced it and provided the right new amenities and opened it up and allowed for different opportunities, I think that could be something, like you said, that enhances the communities around it, that make it a much more beautiful space. It's a great open space right now, but I think there's so much more that could be done. And, we can talk about, the future of parks in a minute, but, you did talk about tax revenue. You did talk about the opportunities from there, but, our council has kind of, we've put a little bit more of a focus back on revenue generation and how are we going to, what's the difference between a service and an amenity? What's something that, hey, we understand that it should take a loss, and it's going to be what it is because we're providing that to community. But on some aspects, we look at it as, okay, well, there should be some opportunity to generate some revenue from it as well. So, how best do you capture revenue? But also, how best can we capture that revenue to where it doesn't feel like it's an additional tax on our residents?
Yeah. So that's an interesting conversation. And I think that's where a lot of cities get it wrong. When we talk about revenue or operating like a business, that's kind of had a negative connotation and a negative feel to it because it means, hey, I'm going to pay more. My tax money's going up. I've never operated like that personally. I've had a lot of success in my career generating revenue, and not just a little, but driving it a long way without the community really even feeling the impact of it. So what I'd like to do is just sort of take a critical look at the assets that we have and what's being underutilized at the moment. We talked about field space being one of those. That was a great revenue driver, a desire for the select teams, predominantly with non-residents. So let them pay for that. When we look at our special events, we've allowed all of our community members in for free for the most part for most of what we do. We charge non-residents. Again, we're putting on these events that cost taxpayer money. Taxpayers should benefit from those. Non-residents should have to pay. Had very little kickback when we started doing that for the Independence Day, the Skating Under the Stars, and Halloween this last year was one of them in particular, as well as Bloom and Bluegrass. Again, heavily attended by non-residents to offset the costs for the residents. So that goes back in, to our revenue stream, allows us to do other things for residents. You can adjust some fees, and there's some that just haven't been touched in forever, and they're so below market value. It only makes sense to rise with the consumer price index, right? Inflation, if you will. So we kind of move things just incrementally that maybe we're busting at the seams, right? There's such high demand. Maybe we move that up a little bit. Is there an opportunity to charge a higher non-resident fee than resident fee? But the way we look at it, we want to take care of our residents as much as we possibly can because this is their community. They're the ones that pay taxes. And how do we make that the best for them? So, I don't know. I've not heard too much from residents as far as saying, oh my gosh, things are going to heck. We're charging so much. I mean, we'll get those comments every now and then, but we have drastically increased our revenue over the last couple of years. And talking about significant money here, that again is not going to be coming from the taxpayers moving forward. When you're talking about moving the needle $500,000 to $1 million over the course of a couple of years ongoing, what projects can we do? You start stacking that away for 10 years, you're going to have some real special things that really don't impact the community at all. It's just a more thoughtful approach to doing things. So
yeah, I mean, you're spot on. And you look at, as you mentioned earlier, pay as you go. We increase revenue, we offset expenses. We now have money that we are taking and reinvesting back into our parks department through some of the things that we've been doing the last few years. The dog park was a pay as you go deal. The rec center upgrades are going to be a pay as you go deal. And so they're seeing the fruits of what we as a council and what you is in the Parks and Rec department and as director have been able to achieve through different ways of saying, hey, there's value here to be captured that isn't, like you said, on the backs of the residents. It's, we're charging the select teams to come in and play soccer, or we're renting out more, basketball courts, or doing some of the other stuff that people have been utilizing over time to boost that revenue. But you talk about, how that benefits the residents and the things that we're trying to do for our residents. And one thing I know that we've been working on is, summer funshine. That is a huge deal for this community. That's a huge deal for a lot of our population in terms of childcare and helping some of the families that need it the most during some of these times. What are our plans for summer funshine? And I know it might cause what's been floated out there, and I think where we're kind of going, leaves the solution probably at the branch connection, but what are we then going to do for our seniors? And are we working with some of our other departments? I'm thinking like the library or others to open up some facilities for them to still gather in a limited capacity going forward.
Yeah. So Summer Funshine will open June 15th. Typically, we have anywhere from 240 to 330 kids enrolled on a weekly basis. That's simply too many at this point to do safely and ensure social distancing. And so we want to offer this service to the community because I do think uh, it is a service and it's a necessary service. Those of us that work and return to work here, you got to find some place for your kids. And so that was a discussion that we had, is how can we make this work when a lot of places are closing camps? If you're a parent trying to find a camp right now, you're probably so frustrated you can hardly stand it. And so we want to make sure at Farmers Branch we're doing things different and we're thinking outside the box. And so one of the things is, since we're not opening up the branch connection just yet because it is unsafe, the governor hasn't given the orders to go ahead and congregate in that fashion, let's make use of that through the summertime and move Summer Funshine over there, especially since the recreation center is going to be undergoing a renovation here shortly. And so we'll take 100 kids for just our Summer Funshine program, with an additional 25 in our team leadership program. Team leadership is going to be at the historical park for the first time ever. And so that's going to be a whole different reimagined creative camp. They'll learn about what it was like to be a pioneer, right? And churn butter and do all of the things,
Nice.
Landscaping work. But we're going to make use of spaces that were underutilized before during this time. And I got to tell you, some of the buildings over there have some of the most incredible air conditioning you've ever imagined. So they'll be safe in that regard too. But yeah, so Summer Funshine will go on at the Branch Connection. I got to give credit to Maria Minter and her team, going back to saying, what makes us different? How do we provide these great services? Someone who's been here 20 plus years, like Maria has, and grew up in the Summer Funshine program essentially and ran it herself, and has her own kids involved in it. She has put so much thought and care into how this program is going to be ran safely. And reviewing the documents and the policies the parents will get here shortly, I would feel comfortable and safe putting my kids in there. And I wouldn't say that for any other camp right now. I've advised my own family. I said, we're going to find a different solution for camp this year unless it's Summer Funshine. So the parents should feel good about that. We wish we could take more, but we're going to take as many as we safely can over at the Branch Connection.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And you had asked about what we're doing for the seniors as well.
Yeah.
So that was one area too, is we didn't want to close the Branch Connection. I mean, even though it would be closed anyway, if the governor said in 2 weeks, hey, COVID's gone, go ahead about your business, but we've already got Summer Funshine over there. We wanted to make sure we're still engaging our senior population in some way. And so we've got a whole list of classes, and I don't have the exact number, but it's well over 10 classes. Are some of our most popular classes that we're going to do in a very, very scaled down fashion. So we're talking about groups of 10 or less, outdoors in a lot of situations where it's shaded, or indoors with open ceilings and plenty of space to and so we're going to use the library, the historical park, any area we can that we have. We're going to make sure the seniors are taken care of. Also, with their membership to the Branch Connection, they receive free basic membership at the recreation center. So that's certainly an option as well. We just want people to be mindful that it is limited capacity and there's still a danger of congregating too many people. So, but there are options there. We do our drive-through services for the seniors, whether it's the meal program, whether it's face mask kits. So for those that aren't aware, we give you all the supplies. You drive through, you pick up your kit, you make those at home. We do things with our meal club as well. So we give recipe cards and some ingredients and whatever, so people can take home. So there's plenty of things we're doing to still try and service the senior population. We want them to know that. The group we have over there, also incredibly big hearts and a long tenure. And so they're really in touch with the community, still calling people on a regular basis. In fact, weekly, still trying to find a creative way to reach out to people.
Nice. Yeah. And I mean, I know the meal drive's been successful, and just glad that you're, putting your thoughts and energy into thinking about not only them, but it's been the whole community, just across the board. And so, it's been wonderful to see the kind of appreciation from our seniors for what's been doing there, because it gives them some way to get out of the house, some way to engage with other people in the line while they're staying in their car and socially distancing, but also, grab a meal that I know is some of their favorite parts of the month up at the branch connection. But, when I think about, our seniors, our community, I'm constantly thinking about the future. What is the future of Farmers Branch, and where are we trying to go? And one of the things that we're looking at is a brand new signature park. Now, it could potentially be a grandiose one, or maybe a little bit less than what we might consider shooting for the moon. But something that I think we've all decided is, let's reimagine one of our parks to make it just world class. And what's been your process behind that park, and what are you guys looking to do here in Farmers Branch, should council and the community get behind it?
Yeah, so this is another super exciting project for me and my team to work on. We had talked about reimagining spaces quite some time ago. Mayor, you and I and Deputy City Manager John Land kind of brainstormed, and I think all of us at some point have crazy ideas, right? And we sort of throw them out there and see, hey, what can stick? And so we went and toured several parks, saw some elements by certain manufacturers that we really liked. One of the ideas I think the three of us sort of kicked around was, what if we did a night park? And you say, well, night park, what is that? Is that dumb? Is that the best idea ever? Like, what is that? And so, what I like to do, I certainly do my research and vet out projects before bringing anything forward. So did some investigation, and there's not really anything in the United States like what we were trying to imagine. There's some elements. If you went to Boston, you see these glowing swing sets for adults. They have something like that there. If you go to the Pro Museum, there's these glowing frogs outside that kids play on in the evening time. But there was nothing that sort of put it all together. And so one of the thoughts that we had was, what if we found, did we maybe just stumble across a new segment of entertainment? Because you have amusement parks and you have parks with playgrounds, but what's in between? And so that was kind of the thinking on that. And so reached out to a company called Compan, who did a large project over in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Gathering Place, really impressive facility, and said, hey, we have this idea for a night park, and we have this idea of a park that would engage toddlers all the way up to adults. Here's what's in our heads. Can you make that work? And so kind of what the initial direction was, hey, we want something that has an element of danger or perceived risk. It's completely safe, but it challenges the mind to have that risk for the older kids and the adults. The studies show we've lost that sense in our playgrounds, in our parks right now, which later on creates problem-solving skills for adults. And so how do we reintroduce that? And Compan's been on the cutting edge. And so, I said anything under 35 feet is not going to work. Like, I want something huge, but has safety zones and levels and different things. Completely safe, just has perceived risk. And it glows at night. You can see it from the evening. You can use it during the daytime. Because why do that? In Texas, it is blazing hot. I mean, we're about to really experience that in a couple of weeks here in the evening time. So if it's 105 during the day, it's 101 in the evening. That's perfect. That feels good, right? So, but at least it cools down somewhat and the sun's not directly on you. And so how can we utilize that space? Or when it is pleasant during different times of the year, but it gets dark at 5 o'clock, you still want to take your kids out, right? But nothing's open. What can you do? So this would kind of bridge that gap and allow our residents to use the park year round, really, in daytime and at night. It's been shown that certain populations like to congregate as a family in the evening time, and so this would satisfy that as well. And so one of the spaces that we looked at was Orrin Good All Children's Park, which is on the corner of Valley View and Dennis Lane. That's perfect because it's got infrastructure as far as parking is concerned. You're saving a few $100,000 right off the bat because there's ample parking there. It's right off of a major thoroughfare, and it's not directly next to residential that would impact them with light pollution or anything like that. And so we had a really neat idea right over there. We brought to council several months back sort of a 3-phased approach on what we could do with that. $1 million park, $3 million park, and a $5 million park. anything less than 2 million isn't going to get you much that's really awe-inspiring. You've seen it before. As I mentioned earlier, Farmers Branch, we want to be ahead of the curve. We want to be cutting edge. We want to do something different. We don't want to copy what anybody's done before. And in meeting with Compen over several meetings to finally hone what this plan looks like, I've not met a single person that didn't say, whoa, that is the most amazing park I've ever seen. You have to build it today. And that was the direction we gave that company. I said, in fact, we met with 5 different companies to see what they can come up with. And this was the only one that really captured the vision. And the direction given was, if you don't say to yourself, whoa, I want to climb that, this is the most amazing thing I've ever designed, you got it wrong. And so Compen hit it. Mayor, you saw it. I think you like what you saw on that. And so
I loved what I saw. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And, definitely, that night park concept, I think it's enough to be revolutionary, not only in North Texas, but in, across the United States in terms of things that we're trying to do. And to be a city in the park, those are the type of initiatives I feel we should pursue. Those are the type of things that are going to help us capitalize on the growth and redevelopment and reimagination that Farmers Branch is kind of going through right now in terms of our community. And you brought up the word differentiate, but where do you see the greatest opportunity for Farmers Branch, outside of that opportunity or what we've already talked about? And how do we continue to differentiate ourselves to maintain our status as a city of the park, while being a thought leader, rather than just being a community that's like, oh, let's do what that community did or do what that community's doing, just to kind of, keep up with the Joneses. But, if you know me, my thought is we might be small, but we can be mighty. So, what is that next great idea that allows us to continue to differentiate ourselves and be about here?
Yeah. Along those lines with that signature park, when Compen finished designing, their president flew in from Germany to get a pitch on this idea and said, wow, we've never done anything like this. And they've done thousands of projects. And he goes, we got to get this done. I said, well, you got to get the price down first, something we can afford. But that's going to really put us on the map. I think it's going to get people talking. If you look at what Dallas did with Clyde Warren Park several years back, that was probably a crazy idea at first. They're like, put a city right where there's major roads? That makes zero sense. And we've seen the economic impact of that over the years, which I believe is in the $2 billion, somewhere in there. So, I mean, it's been quite a bit. Now, we're not going to have that same impact, but it's going to get people talking from out of the area. You say we're small, maybe small, but we're mighty. We sometimes joke internally, like people say farmers where that aren't from the area. Projects like this will let people know exactly where Farmers Branch is at, because they're going to come in and they're going to talk about it. How do we differentiate ourselves? Well, putting something like that on the corner of Valley View and Dennis, like I talked about, has some amazing synergy with the projects that we've been doing. And so you look at the historical park where you kind of start all the way down close to the freeway, you come out through Mustang Station, you have the Grove right there, Mustang Station. Then you come up on the corner of Dennis and Valley View, you have that signature park potentially. And so you go down Dennis, you have our branch connection that we're somewhat reimagining or done some enhancements to. And then the recreation center that we're doing some renovations to with the dog park there. So it creates this amazing sort of corridor right in the heart of our city that people can come and use. It has unique amenities at every single one of those locations that you can't get anywhere else. And they're all either free or very low cost to the community, which I think is great. I think this project is sort of the genesis of reimagining our park system, what that looks like. We have some ideas on potentially 2 other signature parks that could happen if this takes off. There's will from the community and political leaders to get this done. We can come up with 2 other ideas, and we have some locations in mind where these can be, that really make it special, where people say, you're in Farmers Branch, why do you live there? What's different? It's because they cater to everyone. They cater to the families. They recognize the residents. They're not all about making money. They do things differently, and you just can't get it anywhere else. We're going to be built out at one point. We still have some space, I think. But we've seen what happens this last year and a few years prior with home values. That's just going to continue to increase if we continue adding these amenities. And then, supply and demand. If you're in a great position. If you're not, you're going to want to be in at some point. So anyway, that's why I look at it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all that you've done, the energy and excitement that you've brought to the position. I know your staff enjoys working for you, and you got some great leaders under you as well that are taking different sections of the city in some great directions. And so, just want to commend you for that. And it's been a pleasure working with you during this time. But as we're kind of coming towards the end here, I have a few just kind of quick questions. Want to run by you, a little rapid fire, just to kind of close it out. But I'm assuming that your degree in leisure studies was nothing like kind of the one that I took out in Texas Tech. But from all your studies, what's been like the greatest takeaway? As I know you constantly seek to improve and educate yourself.
So degree in leisure studies, I will clarify, also degree in business administration and a master's in public administration. So it's not all fun games, but, and I think the combination thereof has allowed me to bring kind of a business approach to government, while still having the heart for the residents. So, all of that combined, I don't know if I can point to one thing in particular, but it all kind of melds together, I think, for the perfect confluence of what I do now. So.
That's good. And I know, so you kind of worked in a special part of Elk Grove. Now, how do you pronounce that name? Is it Katsume?
Kasumnes CSD. Yeah, special services district. Yeah.
Now, did they ever talk about changing that name since no one could pronounce it? Because I watched a lot of videos and it looked like they just shortened it to kind of a little acronym.
CSD. Yeah, they just call it CSD. Yeah, it's one of those words you've heard it pronounced many different times. You don't want to look stupid by doing it wrong, so you just do an acronym, right?
Yeah. Well, it seemed to me like it was also a way for people to weed out people that didn't grow up there because they didn't know how to say it at all. Like, you're not from here, are you?
You're not a resident. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know your wife works for the M crowd. What's the favorite restaurant out of that group?
Honestly, the Mercury, which is the least known, because it's
Preston and Forest.
Okay, so you've been there. Yeah, you can get a nice steak or seafood, or they have a sushi side too. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy that. Probably because I eat it the least amount. We eat Mi Cocina way too regularly. So I got to choose the healthier options or modify so I don't weigh 300 pounds in a couple of years. But yeah.
Well, now that you've been in Texas for a little while, and I mean, you can kind of get some in California. I think Texas does stuff better than other parts of the country. But where would you rank the Mambo Taxi in terms of margaritas? And if not at the top, what would be the top for you?
I would say it's got to be at the top. So I'm not a big fan of a blended drink typically, but that's got a special taste and a special kick to it that I think every Texan should try if they haven't. So popular, in fact, it's got its own ornament for your Christmas tree just last year. You wouldn't believe the demand that those sold out like instantly for a ridiculous ornament anyway. So try it if you.
No, I feel like the to-go concepts from the governor relaxing that and allowing people to enjoy some of that stuff in the privacy of their own home, I think was a great idea. I hope it's something that sticks around, because it seems to have been something that, in my opinion, just seeing it potentially could have saved what could have been even worse for the restaurant industry. And, I know in some areas takeouts just actually, blossomed, and some restaurants were doing better than they were doing before because of this. So, it's interesting to see how, when you're down, people get creative and find ideas that allow us to push forward and succeed. And, in terms of success, just the track record and where we've been and where we're going, just very appreciative of you and all that you've been doing. And I just want to thank you for joining me this morning and having a chat, talking about the future of our parks and one of our, most treasured areas of the cities in terms of amenities that we're providing to our residents. So really appreciate that. Appreciate you. But to everyone else, just want to say thanks for watching Mornings with the Mayor. I'm your host, Robert Dye. And as the world around us continues to change, and more than ever, we start to look for reform, especially in some aspects in our lives, we're going to have bigger conversations and look at things a lot differently. And so I think, next week on our show, that might be something we dive into, something where we talk about, what's going on, impacts, potential solutions, and where we all might need to go from here to truly make some changes that benefit all of us. Our community is stellar in all aspects of our life, but there's always opportunities to improve, to be better, and as I said previously, to be that thought leader, not only in our region but in Texas in terms of how we do things. So, with that, look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks for joining today, and we'll see y'all next time. Appreciate it.